Hello and welcome to Macbeth Revision Quotes. In the first scene, the witches are introduced. The first witch says this: "In thunder, lightning, or in rain." The witches are clearly seen as speaking in riddles, and they use symbols of the supernatural. All the witches say this line: "Fair is foul, foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air." This view will be taken up by Macbeth in the play. In the second scene of Act 1, the sergeant calls Macbeth "Brave Macbeth, well he deserves that name," and Duncan calls him "O valiant cousin, worthy gentleman." The sergeant then says the line, "Shipwrecking storms and direful thunders break." He goes on to say, "As sparrows eagles, or hare the lion," which is present of animal imagery. Ross later says, "Belladonna's bridegroom," and Duncan finishes up the scene by saying, "What he had lost, noble Macbeth had won." This is a symbol of how the Thane of Cawdor, who was also a traitor, has lost his title to Macbeth, who will also become a traitor. This is an example of irony within the play. In the third scene, we are officially introduced to Macbeth. He says the line, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." His friend and comrade Branko also says to the witches, "Your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so," referring to how the witches have beards, making them unable to be able to tell if they are women or men. This is imagery of the witches. Each witch then gives him a name. The first witch says, "Thane of Glamis," the second, "Thane of Cawdor," and the third, "That shall be king hereafter." The third witch also says to Banco, "Thou shalt get kings, there shall be none. So all hail Macbeth and Branko." Macbeth then says, "Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more." After the witches vanish, he says to Branko, "Your children shall be kings." Then, after meeting up with Ross says, "For an earnest of a great honour, he bade me from him call thee Thane of Cawdor." Macbeth then says, "Why do you dress me in borrowed robes?" referring to the fact that in his view, the Thane of Cawdor is still alive, and he is still allowed to be called the Thane of Cawdor by the king. After being informed that he is Thane of Cawdor now, he says, "The greatest is behind." Banco then says, "The instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles to betray us in deepest consequence." He refers to the fact that while the witches do tell the prophecy, they are not on your side, and are in fact only going to betray you when you most need them. Macbeth later on says, "Why do I yield to the suggestion which horrid image dost unfit my hair?" This is reference to the fact that while he is thinking about killing the king, it does not make him happy, and really makes him afraid. He later says, "My thought whose murder is yet fantastical," and "If chance will have me king, why chance may crown me," referring to the fact that chance may make him king, and he may not need to kill the king. But later on he goes, aside, "Come what come may, time and the hour runs through the roughest day." Then, in the next scene, Duncan says, "There is no art to find the mind's concentration in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust." This is an example of how Duncan judges upon his appearance of people and cannot be a judge of character. He later says, "More is thy due than more than all can pay." Macbeth responds by saying, "The service dear and loyalty I owe, in doing it pays itself, your highness." And later, "Our duties are to your throne, state, children, and servants." Later within this scene, Duncan informs them who shall be his successor by saying, we will establish our estate upon our eldest Malcolm. Macbeth then says aside, "The Prince of Cumberland, this is a step on which I may fall down, or else overleap, for in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires, let not see my black and deep desires." Duncan ends the scenes by saying it is a perilous kinsman. In the next scene, Lady Macbeth says, "My dearest partner of greatness," and also, "Yet do I fear thy nature, it is too full the milk of human kindness." This is reference to the fact that she believes that Macbeth is too kind to kill the king. Then she says, "That I may pour my spirit in thine ear," which is reference to the fact that she believes that she can herself convince Macbeth to kill the king. Then she says later on, "Give him tiding, he brings great news." This is said to a messenger. Then she asks that spirits turn her evil. "Come, you spirits, that tend her mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe-top full of dearest cruelty." This is how she asks evil spirits to make her even more evil, so that she has the abilities to kill the king, even though he has done nothing against her. Further on, she tells Macbeth to look like an innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. And then she says to leave all the rest to me, telling Macbeth that she will organize the murder, and all he need do is simply commit the action himself. When Duncan arrives at Macbeth's castle, he says, "This castle has a pleasant seat. The air nimble and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses." This shows irony throughout, as he will be killed here. Then Duncan later says, "Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight." In the next scene, Macbeth shows that he has realized that there is no actual reason for him to kill the king. "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other." Upon realizing this, he later says to Lady Macbeth that, "We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honoured me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon." This is reference to the fact that they will no longer consider murdering the king, as he has helped Macbeth, and many people view him in a high regard. And he already has much joy in his life. Next, Lady Macbeth convinces him that he should murder Macbeth, because he has promised her he will. "I have given suck, and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums, and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn to you. Have done to this." She is referencing to the fact that Macbeth has sworn that he will kill Duncan to her, and that she would kill her own child had he been promised that that was so. She later says, "Screw your courage to the sticking place," which is asking Macbeth to take the courage to kill Duncan. Finally, Macbeth ends the scene by saying, "False face must hide what false heart doth know," showing that he must hide his intention, otherwise he will be noticed. Here Act 1 ends. Join us in the next video about Act 2. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Macbeth Revision Quotes. Once again, please join us next time, and thank you for listening. If you'd like to listen to the full Macbeth, please click on it on the other video that should appear on your screen now.